Good morning and welcome. Thanks for joining us on this very special show. We call it the Newspaper Show. It's dedicated to your favorite newspapers. I'm Preeti Dahiya, and let's begin the show with a look at the front page of the Times of India this Tuesday morning. Now, take a look at the top headlines that the Times of India is focusing on. It starts with this very positive news coming in from the national capital that fresh cases in the city now have fallen below the 1,000 mark for the first time in 49 days. Now, this also, with the help of these two graphics, shows the peak that Delhi hit at a time when there were about 3,947 cases in a day, and now to the low when less than 1,000 cases, about 954 cases were reported only yesterday. That's July 20th in the national capital. And that, of course, is bringing in a lot of positive news from the national capital. Apart from that, as far as handling of the coronavirus is concerned, globally, the sustained efforts of coming out with a vaccine seem to be paying dividends. Oxford vaccine shows promise. Serum seeks clinical trials in India. Now, the first set of results from early stage of clinical trials of the Oxford University COVID-19 vaccine candidates show that it is safe and induces an immune reaction, according to results published in a recent medical journal. Now, that, of course, is one of the best news that people are relating to this morning, which has come in about the vaccine of COVID-19. And if you take a look at some of the negative side of the story, then the state of Karnataka is still, in fact, dealing with a peak in the COVID-19 cases. COVID deaths top 28,000 mark, and biggest spurt in July cases in Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh. These two states from down south are reportedly yet to hit their peak. Let's take a look at some other front page stories, and also I want you to in fact take a look at this interesting graphic which features here on the other side of this front page, how COVID really covered the entire country in 4 months. If you want to understand the spread of COVID-19 in India, it starts from the map of the country from March, where India's growth was 15.2%, to April, May, June and July. How the growth story has taken a hit because of the spread of the coronavirus. And they take a look at these areas, in fact, which are worst affected. Now it seems that the focus is getting shifted towards the northeast side of the country, and obviously south of India as well. Maharashtra is slowly turning into yellow, which is even now the worst affected state in the country. And there are more details that you can go into with the help of this graphic. This is also another important story. In signal to China, US and India conduct joint naval exercises in the Indian Ocean, and this was when the US Navy ships were going back from South China Sea. That was also a significant message to China, and also a message of solidarity with India by the US. The front page also talks about the important political developments in the state of Rajasthan, where the Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot reportedly ripped into Sachin Pilot, the dissident MLA and former Deputy CM of Rajasthan, by calling him Nikamma and Nakara. These are the two Hindi words which are also trending on social media, on Twitter particularly, after Ashok Gehlot used these adjectives for Sachin Pilot, who was once his deputy in the state. And there is this very important bit of news where the Supreme Court, in fact, has reflected a bit on how exactly in first place dreaded gangster Vikas Dubey got parole, and they are calling it an institutional failure. You can go into the details of the exact words used by the Supreme Court. Also, let's take a look at some other important stories which are coming in from the inside pages of the Times of India this morning. It talks about some important Delhi-specific news that we will reflect on in just a bit. But apart from that, there is another important bit of news that residents in Delhi and NCR can really think about, and that is that Noida and Ghaziabad, in fact, have also given nod for home isolation. This is what the UP government has decided now. Remember, till now in Uttar Pradesh, if you have tested positive for COVID-19, you were supposed to be shifted to a government facility for isolation. But now this sanction has been given for home isolation for patients of COVID-19 in Noida and Ghaziabad. And Delhi model, the Chief Minister of Delhi says, is being used in other states, and he is happy about that fact. And also take a look at this very interesting graphic. Those people who are not wearing masks are fined, and mask fines fetch cops 2.4 crore rupees since April. Now that is a very impressive number, but that also shows that people are not taking wearing of masks in public places seriously, and that needs to in fact convey a very strong message to people who are venturing out of their houses in public places not wearing their masks. A look at some other stories in the inside pages. Amid Pakistan flip-flops, India weighs Jadhav case options. So in the absence of any meaningful consular access for India to Kulbhushan Jadhav, the government is still weighing its options for ensuring justice to the Indian national sentenced to death by a Pakistani military court. Rahul slams Prime Minister on LAC, and JP Nadda once again trashes the claims made by Congress MLA Rahul Gandhi. And so that's about the important inputs from the Times of India this morning. We will also go into the details of the global page and the business page separately a bit later in the bulletin. But if you quickly take a look at the editorial of the Times of India today, there is a very interesting article on who wins post-pandemic. And the hint is not the US or China, then who exactly it is. Must-read article really by author Ruchir Sharma in the editorial page of the Times of India this morning. Now, let's shift our focus to the Economic Times, your favorite business daily in the country. And the Economic Times is talking about a very important development. I want to quickly shift your focus to the bottom half of this page, and it talks about the job losses because of coronavirus. The latest to announce layoffs is actually airline IndiGo, which has decided to lay off 10% of its workforce, and impacted staff will get at least 3 months gross salary, medical insurance until December. That's the announcement from IndiGo. In fact, the pilots' body has already stepped in on this decision of IndiGo to lay off 10% of its staff, and they say that the decision is illegal. But IndiGo currently has about 28,000 employees, of which 40% are pilots and cabin crew. And a senior executive said that pilots at the airlines won't be affected by this move just as yet. So more details on who exactly will end up losing their job in IndiGo will also come out in the coming days. And another story in the bottom half of the Economic Times, a non-Tata may one day head the Tata Trust. Tata family has no vested right to the chair or even to the position of holding co-chairman. That's a comment from Tatas themselves. And in fact, the future of the organization could go into the hands of someone who is not from the family. A very strong indication there coming in from the Tata group. The inside pages of the Economic Times are also focusing on the political turmoil that one is witnessing in the state of Rajasthan. Apart from that, there is an important bit of information on state labor laws violating code to be quashed, and that is a statement from the government. You can go into the details of this and understand the impact that it would have in the coming days. Also, there are other important updates which are being listed in the edition of the ET today. Term premium up 30%, and it's not a COVID hit. Some private insurers raise rates, rise in death claims in past few years seen as trigger. So that is one thing that people who follow the insurance plans can in fact understand from this bit. Apart from that, if you take a look at some other important headlines that find space in today's edition of the Economic Times, 2 labor codes may be tabled in monsoon session. There are no fixed dates as yet as to when will the monsoon session of the parliament start, but when it does, the Labour Ministry has finalized 2 labor codes that will give flexibility to state governments on rules related to hiring, retrenchment and fixing work hours in factories and establishments, while imposing curbs on workers to form unions. So these are some important updates that the Economic Times has in fact given out in today's edition, and that just about does it for us from the Economic Times of today. Let me now shift our focus to the Hindi newspaper from the Times group, and that's Navbharat Times, your favorite Hindi paper. And Navbharat Times में आज सुबह की सुर्खियों में सबसे बड़ी खबर है कि नजर ना लगे इस टीके को, कोरोना पर पहली जीत। इन्होंने बात की है उस वैक्सीन की जो कि ऑक्सफोर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी ने बनाया है और जिसके ह्यूमन ट्रायल्स के बाद काफ़ी पॉजिटिव रिजल्ट्स सामने आ रहे हैं। शुरुआती नतीजों में खरी उतरी ऑक्सफोर्ड की वैक्सीन, और और अब साथ ही साथ फोकस शिफ्ट हो रहा है भारत में बनने वाली कोवैक्सीन पर भी, जिसके ट्रायल्स शुरू हो चुके हैं। 11 लाख पार केस, एक दिन में यूएस से ज़्यादा मौतें, ये जो पिछले एक दिन का आंकड़ा सामने आया है भारत से, वो काफ़ी चिंता वाली बात है। देश में कोरोना संक्रमण के नए केसों में तेज़ी बरकरार है और सोमवार को रिकॉर्ड 40,000 से ज़्यादा केस सामने आए हैं। और भारत सरकार, साथ ही काफ़ी राज्यों की सरकारें भी इस चीज़ को के काफी चिंता में है। गहलोत सरकार का आदेश कि राज्य में बिना मंजूरी के सीबीआई की नो एंट्री, ये भी एक आज की बड़ी खबर है कि जो पॉलिटिकल उठापटक हम देख रहे हैं राजस्थान में कांग्रेस के दो कैंप्स के बीच, उसके चलते अशोक गहलोत ने सीबीआई को नो एंट्री का आदेश कर दिया है। अगर सीबीआई किसी भी जांच के लिए या किसी भी रेड के लिए राजस्थान में जाना चाहती है तो पहले उन्हें स्टेट की सरकार से अनुमति लेना जरूरी होगा। और इसके अलावा फ्रंट पेज पे नवभारत टाइम्स के कोरोना के चलते T20 वर्ल्ड कप साल भर टला, आईपीएल की राह साफ। इस खबर पर हम बाद में भी नजर डालेंगे जब हम अपने स्पोर्ट्स सेक्शन में जाएंगे, लेकिन ये एक बड़ी खबर है जो आज के नवभारत टाइम्स ने रिपोर्ट की है। और प्राइम मिनिस्टर 32 सेकंड के मुहूर्त में रख देंगे मंदिर की नींव। ये 5 अगस्त को होने वाले राम जन्मभूमि के मंदिर की जो नींव है उसको रखने वाले प्रोग्राम के ऊपर एक छोटा सा न्यूज़ आर्टिकल है जिसमें प्राइम मिनिस्टर नरेंद्र मोदी 5 अगस्त को दोपहर 12:15 बजे के शुभ मुहूर्त में सिर्फ 32 सेकंड में मंदिर की आधारशिला रख देंगे। और ये एक अपने आप में नया रिकॉर्ड होगा। और इसी चीज़ पर काफ़ी सारी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज भी ऑब्जेक्शन कर रही हैं कि क्यों इन दिनों जब पूरा देश कोविड-19 से और आर्थिक इंस्टेबिलिटी से जूझ रहा है तो प्रधानमंत्री को अयोध्या जाना है राम मंदिर की आधारशिला रखने के लिए। प्लाज्मा डोनेट करने वाली पुलिस की पहली महिला सिपाही बनी हेमा। एक नई शुरुआत है। याद रखिए कि दिल्ली में प्लाज्मा डोनेट करने के लिए सरकार ने काफ़ी अवेयरनेस कैंपेन्स चलाए हैं जिनके चलते अब बहुत लोग सामने आ रहे हैं जो अपना प्लाज्मा डोनेट करना चाहते हैं। और उन्हीं में से पहली महिला सिपाही बनी है हेमा, जिन्होंने अपना प्लाज्मा डोनेट किया है। तो ये कुछ बड़ी खबर थी आज के नवभारत टाइम्स से। और इसके साथ ही हमारा जो पहले 3 बड़े न्यूज़पेपर्स का एक सेगमेंट है वो रैप अप करते हैं। लेकिन अब सिटी स्पेसिफिक न्यूज़ पर अगर हम जाएं तो लेट्स नाउ शिफ्ट आवर फोकस टू न्यूज़ व्हिच इज कमिंग इन फ्रॉम द नेशनल कैपिटल। एंड लाइक आई सेड, द नेशनल कैपिटल, in fact Kangna is joining me now on the broadcast. Kangna, it's good news for national capital which has recorded less than 1,000 cases in the last 24 hours, and that really brings us to the other big story that is being reported, that 1,800 called to volunteer for vaccine trial at AIIMS, only 100 required. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, Preeti, it's a very good news that is coming in from the national capital, from the All India Medical Institute of Sciences, where we have got to know that the first phase of trials of the Covaxin, the indigenous vaccine for coronavirus in India, has started on Monday. Yesterday, they only required 100 people to register for the trials, but they've got request of 1,800 people who have been making unlimited calls to the institute to get themselves registered. The head of the institute has also mentioned the criteria for people who can register for this trial. For example, people between 18 to 55 can register for them, but they should have no comorbidities of the fact. For example, they are not supposed to be any diabetic patient, or any rental illnesses should not be a part of their body system. Apart from that, pregnant women will not be selected for this. Pregnant women can be selected for this, but who are currently pregnant will not be selected. Women who have been pregnant before or have aborted can be selected for these trials. But the good news is that they have thought that just to ease on the procedure, to follow up with the procedure, people only from NCR region will be selected for these trials. People from outside Delhi or other states who have already registered for the trials, it will be difficult to follow up with these people, and hence only people from NCR region will be selected for these trials. trials.
Thanks very much for updating us with that. And of course, with that, we're now shifting our focus to the Mumbai edition of Times of India this morning. And in terms of front page news, it's once again talking about the US-India naval exercises. But Arunil is joining me on the broadcast now. And Arunil, as far as the city of Mumbai, the state of Maharashtra is concerned, it says that Uddhav Thackeray is actually on the guest list for Ayodhya event on August 5th.
Well, that is right, Preeti. In fact, there was a demand that was made by Shiv Sena MLA Pratap Sarnaik yesterday saying that we request the Ram Janmabhoomi Trust to invite Uddhav Thackeray as well. And basically, the Shiv Sena leaders have been repeatedly getting into a tussle kind of a thing to gain credit, saying that since 1992, it has been the late Bal Thackeray as well as Shiv Sena leaders who have been working towards the Ram Janmabhoomi. But one question that could be asked to the Shiv Sena leaders was also, in fact, Times Now also asked Pratap Sarnaik, the Shiv Sena MLA who wrote the letter, saying that how they are in the same government with the NCP and the Congress. The NCP Supremo Sharad Pawar clearly said day before yesterday, saying that making Ram Mandir will not solve the coronavirus issue. Right. So the Shiv Sena leaders have more or less distanced themselves from the statement of Sharad Pawar, saying that we have been demanding and working towards Ram Mandir since 1992, and Uddhav Thackeray deserves to be invited for the foundation ceremony. And now we understand that he, along with the RSS chief Mohan Bhagwat, the CM of Maharashtra, Mr. Uddhav Thackeray, will also be invited for the August 5th
so
event.
So it's interesting how once again the various components of Aghadi Sarkar find themselves on different sides of a story that's going to unfold. Thanks very much, Arunil, for joining us with your inputs on that. Let me now shift our focus to Kolkata edition of the Times of India this morning, and for that Tamal is joining me live on the broadcast. Tamal, there is this important bit of information that 4 affected zones under watch ahead of the containment list revision. What are these zones?
Well, the zones have been divided like Kolkata, Jadavpur, Goria, you have Fulbagan, you have Beleghata area, you have Bhawanipur. And these are the areas from where maximum cases for the city of Kolkata have been reported from. Now, these are prime areas, has huge habitation, and thus the cluster has also seen getting infected at a very high speed. The reason why the state government is of the opinion that fresh measures have to be adopted, strategies have to be adopted, and these containment zones have simply not have to be revised, but these areas will have to be given specific restrictions so that people do not get infected further. We have to understand now the state of West Bengal has also decided 2-day complete lockdown every week, just fearing there could be community transmission happening. The reason why the decision has been taken, that apart, containment zones will be under the scanner of the state government.
Thank you very much, Tamal, for joining us with those updates from the city of Kolkata. And now we are going to shift our focus to Bengaluru, and Deepak Bopanna will be joining me shortly on the broadcast. Deepak, good morning. Well, as far as the cases in Bengaluru are concerned, they are on the rise, but mantris rule out extension of lockdown.
Yes, that's something that has been on the cards, because from last week, we had the BBMP commissioner as well, who suggested that lockdown is probably the way forward for Bengaluru. He drew the ire of some of the politicians in Karnataka, and the chief minister himself later went on to say the idea is to not go into another phase of lockdown, because he definitely believes that it's the people in the city who should probably follow social distancing, better hygiene, and because economic activity as well is something that's key. So their focus could be enforcement of wearing of masks, social distancing, rather than actually going for a lockdown. But of course, a final decision will be taken later this evening. Probably some rules may be amended from what it was before to bring in some new things.
All right. Thank you very much, Deepak, for joining us with those updates from the city of Bengaluru. We are now going to shift our focus to Chennai edition of the Times of India. And the Chennai edition reports there were 4,985 new cases and 70 deaths in the state of Tamil Nadu just in the last 24 hours. Also, it goes on to mention that hospitals in Chennai have more patients from nearby districts, and that's why they are flooded with cases of COVID-19, not only from the city of Chennai, but also from nearby districts, as the state even now struggles to come out with a comprehensive plan to handle the coronavirus pandemic. pandemic. But let me quickly go across to Shabir, who's joining me now from Chennai. Shabir, good morning. Even as the state is struggling with coronavirus pandemic, I believe that the Tamil Nadu government has some plans for investments in the economy in the coming few months and weeks.
Well, that's right. The Tamil Nadu government has been working on reviving the economy, particularly by wooing investments from, global brands. And now, 8 MOUs were signed by the Tamil Nadu government and various companies, including Hiranandani and various other projects all across Tamil Nadu, particularly in areas like Coimbatore, Erode, and Sri Perumbutur. So these are all plans that will generate, jobs for the locals and for the people who are living in and around those areas. So this investment is something which is seen as a major move by the Tamil Nadu government to try and woo at a time when the entire world is grappling with the, with the downslide in the economy. So clearly, the Tamil Nadu government is now focusing on reviving the economy to try and bring in more investments in the state.
All right. Thank you very much, Shabir, for those updates from the city of Chennai. And with that, we are going to shift our focus to some global news. What are the top headlines in today's Times Global? While UK suspends Hong Kong extradition treaty, blocks sale of arms. This is a very important development, in fact, and that is going to have an impact on the relations between China and the government of United Kingdom. Britain's government suspending its extradition treaty and blocking arms sale with Hong Kong on Monday, after China imposed a tough new national security law. This new national security law by China is also being opposed by several other countries across Europe and even the US, and the impact of it would be, in fact, evident in the coming few months. Tiff between Bangladesh and India forces over cattle smuggling before Eid. That's something that could keep authorities busy as far as relations between India and Bangladesh are concerned. At the same time, if we take a look at some other stories from around the world, Saudi King Salman is in hospital due to inflamed gallbladder. And there is only very little information that the office of the Crown Prince has released on his hospitalization. He is 84 years of age and has been admitted to a hospital in Riyadh for medical tests due to inflammation of the gallbladder. That's the kingdom's royal court briefing on this development on Monday. Pakistan restarts polio vaccination drive is a bit of a news that is being given in this small bracket here in the global page of the Times of India. With that, let's now shift our focus to the sports page of Times of India. In Times Sport, the biggest story of the day is that the T20 World Cup has been postponed, and with that announcement coming in from the ICC yesterday, now a window opens up really to play the edition of IPL this year in September, October. The event of T20 World Cup will be held in Australia in October, which was going to be held in Australia in October 2020, will now be played next year. And at the same time, Men's T20 World Cup will be held next year. Men's T20 World Cup 2022 will be held the year after that. So, in fact, the postponement of World Cup this year has led to the postponement of the future events of ICC as well. And therefore, in a couple of days now, the BCCI will hold its own meeting to decide on what dates are possible really for the IPL to be played. And there are strong indications that IPL could be played in Dubai this year. That's what the BCCI is keen on, because it will be easy for them to have a biosecure environment for players and broadcasters in a country like UAE. Let's now draw your attention to the top entertainment news that the Times of India has for us this Tuesday. And in fact, it talks about Sushant Singh Rajput's suicide case. And there is an update on who all have been questioned so far in connection with the suicide case of actor Sushant Singh Rajput. This includes the likes of Riyaz Chakrabarti, his girlfriend, Aditya Chopra, amongst others. We also have Sanjay Leela Bhansali, two top producers from Bollywood, Reshma Shetty, Shoaib Chakrabarti, and others. That's the big story from the world of entertainment. And that's all we can pack for you in this edition of the newspaper show. Thank you so much for being with us.